Oh my gosh, Andrew. So you of all people, I would think, would have a nickname, or someone would give you a nickname somewhere in time. But you're telling me no.
No, I really don't.
I kind of want to say don't believe you, but it's okay. But you're a glass blower, huh?
Well, fused. I don't have a glass blowing studio in the house. I do fused and other work.
See, there's like little bits and pieces about you that is absolutely fascinating. And you know what? I think we're on that note. We're ready to kick off. The mic is listening. Are you ready for this?
Ready.
Well, hey, that's okay. It's been ready because you know what? The mic has been listening. So let's kick off the Mic is Listening show.
The mic is listening.
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 The mic is listening. The mic is listening.
The mic is listening.
The mic is listening.
The mic is listening.
And good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It is the Mic is Listening show every Wednesday, live streaming at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time because the world evolves around Central Standard Time in my book. So welcome. Today, we've got a wonderful guest, someone I've gotten to know over the pandemic. And there's something about building relationships with people you've never met, but yet you feel like you've bonded with from the first conversation. So you may not feel that same way, but I would like to welcome Mr. Andrew Deutsch. Andrew, the FangledCast Podcast host extraordinaire. Welcome to the Mic is Listening.
Thanks for having me on, but your name isn't Mike. Where's Mike?
Oh my God, that's how we're gonna kick this off.
Maybe. I think we just did.
There's nothing more fun than really awesome bad puns to kick off an awkward live stream and all that good stuff.
Hey, don't insult me. Mike is listening.
So, Andrew, it's funny, when the very first time I met you, it was through Frank Agan's networking group. And I've decided today is going to be a name dropping day because there are some folks when you meet in a networking context where you just feel like you want to help out, or you just want to promote, or you just feel like, you know what, these peeps are like my tribe that we're actually going to help each other grow. Did you feel that way when you joined up with Frank's crew?
Oh yeah, that's always sort of the mode that I've been in, and his group is great. It's really a good group of people. I've been in some with just I don't know why people are even members of the group, where it's really I'm just here to pitch my stuff and I hope you do business with me and I really don't care what you have to say kind of stuff. Whereas Frank's group is really a great bunch of people that are interested in both sides of the coin.
Yeah, no, it actually threw me off for a little bit because I'm so used to asking people, okay, so, how can we work together? And then they go straight into about themselves, and not once will they ever reciprocate with a question of, hey, what do you do?
Yeah. I was in a group and someone had said, you got to go to this thing because it'll blow your mind that these people are something. And I was in a group with, and you break up into little breakup groups. And the first person pitched 7 MLMs that she's involved with, 7 multi-level marketing scams, trying to see which one of the 7, that was her premise. These are the 7 that I'm making millions with. Which one of those is going to interest you? Because if you're in this group, you're going to sign up for one. And I literally just clicked and gone, done. I didn't even have a response.
Wow. Well, okay, look, so I'm actually new to this whole entrepreneurial world, quite frankly. I left my corporate life in 2017, traveled for a year and a half, realized I have champagne tastes on zero budget. So I had to go figure out what my next life career was. And so my business partner, Aaron, and I launched Innovation Media Enterprises, which produces this wonderful show. We're podcast producers and strategists. And it fascinates me as when you cross over from corporate world to entrepreneurship, the value of networking as it really is, it's so the definition is different, and the value you get from those types of relationships is different. And I have to say, I didn't realize how much of an art it really is. So Sejal, nice for joining us. Thank you. But that art, it's not just simply glad handing business cards anymore. And heaven knows with this pandemic, are we really going to be handing out business cards with each other anymore?
Yeah. Networking existed long before the internet ever happened. And the same kind of weird behavior that we used to see in networking happening in rooms happens in the digital space. Because I remember going to networking meetings, and there's always that one guy who's, I don't know, financial services, insurance, whatever, who just basically spends the entire time passing out business cards around the room, you know, like trying to kill mosquitoes with a shotgun. I mean, and by the end of the day, when you go to leave the room, there's about 50 business cards on the floor near the trash can because people are so disgusted they don't even make it into the can. And that's not what it's about. So it's the same thing happening in the Zoom room where, you know, somebody in the chat call me to sign up for, you know, and pitch in their stuff. Whereas it's really about developing a relationship with people.
Exactly. And it is so much more meaningful now because of the pandemic. We're looking for more than just the pretty faces, you know. I mean, look, Andrew, you caught me with your handsome, charming ways, but really it wasn't until we actually sat down and had a conversation with each other that I realized very quickly, you know, you're more than just a pretty face, right?
Oh, geez. Thank you. I think.
Oh, stop it. Well, you know what's so funny? Like, I just realized though too, like, because we do have to be so conscious of the words that we use and what we choose. People like me, like, I'm very fearful. I'm going to get some massive complaint because I think before, or I speak before I think, more often than not. But so everyone that's listening, you're all handsome and beautiful as well, inside and outside. Just full disclosure, just in case I get some proper feedback.
To be clear, I've never once said something that caused me to have to put my foot in my mouth more than 1,000 times a week.
Oh, well, look. It's quite frankly, it's your wonderful skills and your graphic skills that I think cracks me up. Like, you know, at some point I'm going to ask you to sneeze, just for fun, but it's probably not the most appropriate thing. But anyway, okay. So FangledCast Podcast. Let us talk some shop real quick, because I guess that's what the purpose of this show is all about.
Okay.
I mean, I so enjoy listening to podcasts in general, because I feel like I'm getting a masterclass without having to pay that exorbitant price point, which, by the way, masterclass product, it's actually quite brilliant concept. But help me understand, why did you launch FangledCast?
It initially, the idea of it was really because the opportunity for folks to get to know us before they get to know us. And I joke about it, but I'm not really joking. It allows people who would not want to do business with me to not bother me. And I know that sounds really sarcastic and dark, but in the process of engagement, you go through an entire conversation and digging deep and creating proposals and all of that. And many times at the end, it might be a perfect fit in terms of the work, but you're just not the right person for them. So we joke that by creating the podcast, it eliminates all those people that wouldn't want to do business with us. But the reality is that the reason that we did it is it's a calling card for how Fangled Tech, Fangled Group, our company, interacts with the world. And it also shows our level of expertise, the kinds of things that we're interested in. And so that was sort of part one. And then the second part of it was to really explore topics that would matter to the world in business, because we don't do the podcast based on, hey, you're an interesting person, will you come on? We do the podcast based on, this is a topic that we really want to talk about. Let's talk about that by finding the best person that we can who has expertise to teach me and my audience about it. So, I like it. So, you know, otherwise it ends up being what we call the ego cast. And I'm sure you've listened to these podcasts that sound like, hi, I'm Bob. I'm the expert. And nobody's smarter than me, except for maybe my guest today, Phil. Hey, Phil, tell us what a genius you are. And there's chest pounding, and you get to hear empty platitudes, and nobody learns anything.
Yep. So, oh, gosh, it's that echo chamber, right?
Yeah. So we try really hard to do that. So, for example, there's an episode, which isn't profiled in the ones that I gave you the clips, but a gentleman who I've known for 30-something years, who's an expert in the evaluation and the understanding of how curiosity affects the workforce. If you can measure the levels of curiosity, coach to increase that level, and look at the output, it changes the productivity of a company. So I had to have him on to talk about that because it's such an interesting subject. So that's the reason he was on the show, is because I was curious about how curiosity affects the workforce, and he's an expert. So it was a great conversation, and I left smarter.
I love that. I mean, again, now I too am curious. I think having curiosity is what we lack so much as adults, right? When we were children, we had the ability to go outside and play, right? And we created our own universe, and we got to, be, I don't know, cops and burglars one day, and then maybe we were, dragons and princesses the other day. And I think you're right. The fact that as we become more adult and we become more focused in our priorities in life, and then quite frankly, the tasks that we are, being paid to do, you kind of forget and lose that moment of curiosity because you don't have that freedom of free thought anymore. It seems like, I'm digging it.
Yeah, but those are the kinds of topics, and it's funny in the business world because everybody's got their guard up and their ego going. So many people won't admit that when they hear a term that they don't know what it means. So for example, you'll hear people talking about private equity all the time. Well, most people don't understand what private equity is, how it works, how they think, and how it affects the business world. So we had a gentleman on who's an expert, and he talked about that. I mean, Joe, the other day I was talking to a potential client who is the CEO of a company that's, I think they're about an $80 million company. And he was asking me if I knew what it was over in Finland that makes the technology so popular that everybody's talking about it. And I said, I'm not aware. Well, he said, well, you're the international guy. You should know. And I said, but what specific technology are you talking about? Is everybody's talking about fintech. And this is a guy who's,
are you kidding?
Oh, no. He's a senior executive who does beautiful. He didn't know what fintech was.
That's crazy.
So, but so many times there's these topics that people, I sat in a job interview years ago, and one of the guys asked me about SEO, and the other fella in the interview didn't know what he was asking me, but pretended he did. So he wanted to follow up, and his follow-up had nothing to do with what we were talking about. So with the podcast, when there's those terms and things that come up, that it's an opportunity for people to learn it and then not be embarrassed the next time around when they don't know the answer.
It's funny. I absolutely agree with that. When I was in tech sales, there's an assumption, right, that, oh, you're selling technology, therefore you must know it. It's like, look, people, if I can solve your technical issue, you've got bigger problems in your environment, right? I know enough to be dangerous, as in I can speak the vernacular enough to at least have a cohesive conversation. But you put me in front of like a networking switch, I will plug things in and out and turn it on and off. That's about the extent of my skills, So, I love the way you're putting this, because and the way FangledCast to me, and I've been watching you and stalking you because, that's what I do. It's fun. I like the fact that you have such a broad swath of content as far as the topics aren't the same. It is, like you say, the subject matter experts in particular areas. And sometimes if it's niche, it's okay. But if it's something where you're just interested in learning more about, that's okay as well. You had a guest on, and I'd like to go ahead and play this one. And it was talking about niching down and showing that value that you provide for your clients. And so I'm going to go ahead and play this for just a quick second here. Sure. And I'm going to quiz you, young man.
Okay, I've got my quiz hat on.
I know. Okay, talk to me about what exactly was going on behind this, because I always love these types of conversation, but there's got to be some level of inspiration behind it. So here we go.
At the core of Fangled, we always say we help people convert every touch into voracious advocates for their brand. That's our pitch every time we give a talk. That's part of it. But what's interesting about this differentiation model, and I think this is somewhere where you and I are completely aligned, is differentiating from your competitors matters, yes, but differentiating in a way that takes into account what matters to your meaningful to your customer and puts you apart from any other solution that's out there to the same problem that you're solving.
Yeah, it's really, the smaller that you go, the less competitors that you have. But the trick is not to find the smallest problem. The trick is to find a problem that nobody else is addressing that is a demand. So if you think about the Swiffer, we always call it the Swiffer. Like, have you found the Swiffer in your industry? Is they did written, like, they did research, and women were saying, we work hard all day and we want something convenient, easy, quick, and cheap to be able to clean. So that's why they had these disposable cleaning, and it launched this huge industry of disposable cleaning products. I don't even know if you remember that as a market.
So that is so funny that she brought up the Swiffer analogy, which I thought, I didn't even think about it, right?
Yeah.
As a business professional and as a, let's just be honest, not the most domesticated individual. Yeah.
There's a difference between being domestic and domesticated. That's a whole other conversation.
In my context, it applies either way. So I mean, but I find that very interesting because it is a very important point to make, right? Is we all want to be different. We all have to share our specific value to our client and answering a particular business need. But it was very interesting to point out that it's got to be, I mean, if you're going to answer a very niche problem, understand the parameters that you're going to go after, right? It's the equivalent of like a market cap, right? Like you're going to put a $5 million investment into something that's a $2 million market cap. Is it really the best investment?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, first of all, Chala, who was in the interview, is absolutely brilliant. If you know somebody who needs help putting their pitch together, I know very few as good as she is. She's brilliant. But the concept there, what we were talking about, is a major problem that we see with so many clients, is that they're out there pitching things that they're very proud of about their business, but it doesn't matter to the audience. So like for example, maybe a car company has some sort of additive in the rubber in their tires that makes their car better than everybody else. But the guy who's buying the car, what he cares about is comfort and safety. And that additive doesn't mean anything. So you're out there promoting something that and it doesn't solve that person's problem. So is it really the right thing to be promoting? So that's really what that was about, is, how do you, first of all, understand your customer well enough to know what their problems are, and then how you can differentiate and expand about the parts that are different about you that not only meet that need, but do it better than any other alternative out there.
So it just reminds me of one of the shows that we produce, and the guest was actually on it last week, John Davidson. So shout out to DLC Drop Podcast on the Esports Future Eye Podcast Network, because, that's what I do. Promote. But he had a guest on, and I forgot the name of the guest, so forgive me. But the fact is, they're talking about esports industry, right? And they're talking about non-endemic brands trying to get into the esports industry and community in a way that makes sense and is authentic. And what you just said just reminded me with, the car, for example. Lexus did an amazing job integrating themselves into the esports community, which you wouldn't necessarily think a luxury car brand trying to target market what is popularly, I guess, considered a bunch of basement dwellers playing video games all day long in their parents property, right? But they were able to ingratiate themselves in a way that it made sense, and the community embraces it, and they were like, hey, wait, you want to market to us, but you're marketing us with the right, I guess, words, if you will. The positioning was correct, and it made sense, right? And it wasn't pandering, right? And it wasn't just simply, I just want to throw X amount of dollars at you because this is a new burgeoning $2.2 billion industry. And that's where I think we as, consultants, as well as for our clients, need to understand, where that makes sense to collaborate. So, gosh, let's switch paces a little bit here, because I want to share this particular one. And, I had my notes on here, and you would think I'd be organized. Let me go ahead and just play it, and then give me some insider scoop on this, Andrew.
Okay.
Or maybe I should take off the banner off first, because, it's funny. If you ever you're a pro at this. I need to take some lessons on how do you make all these wonderful changes and make it more smooth.
Employees to do things that are outside their comfort zone for the purpose of learning. Like, for example, I've done this, probably shouldn't have, but I've taken a sales team out for lunch and said to the salespeople, you can't order from the menu. You have to ask the waiter to choose something for you, unless you have a dietary restriction, just so that something that they would never have tried comes on their plate. Are those things legal and ethical to do in the workplace, or in today's environment, are you looking for trouble?
No, I think it just depends on who you're dealing with, right? There's no one answer to that question. If you've got a group of people that you're very comfortable with and they trust you, there's psychological safety there to say, I appreciate that suggestion, Andrew, but not today. I'm going to order what I want to do. If there's that comfort level there, there's that trust there, sure. But I think it's very important that we meet people where they are in this journey. And a lot of what I'm seeing is people trying to hammer things down each other's throats to say, I want you to go from, I could barely tolerate you, to now let's give each other hugs and kisses and pretend like we love each other every day. Well, that's not going to work. Right. So it's about.
Okay. Can I just tell you something? I have done that before with, in my, like I said, in my past corporate life, there have been some colleagues where I just want to drop kick. I'm not going to lie to you. And then the next day we have to like smile and nod and continue our job together. Like Sejal, thanks for coming, by the way. And she's been watching us and
is she on the
comments? Yeah, she's on here.
Another dynamite guest. She's fantastic. One of the people in my top 10 of people I've met during the COVID period. She does great. She does great work with her clients. I can tell.
Wait, you guys don't know each other? Oh, I thought you guys knew each other. Like your conversation was so fluid. It was so fun to listen to. So
yeah,
how did you guys meet?
I saw her TED Talk and was fascinated by it because of, and I don't, if you get a chance to see it, go out and see her TED Talk. I don't want to steal the thunder. And I reached out to her and said, you'd be a perfect guest because I've been talking about bias. And I'm looking for a guest to talk about it in a way that doesn't go to that whole sort of fake wokeness stuff, but really how it applies in the business world. And how can companies deal with difference in an adult way that really matters to the organization before they get themselves in trouble.
Right.
And she's brilliant. She really, accomplished attorney and really does great work. So I had to have her on the show.
No, I love it. I mean,
she's really good.
And it is, and I think in this day and age with social media culture that we are in, businesses do need to have some kind of organizations, whatever you want to call it, some kind of corporate culture personality, right?
Yeah. Well, my whole career has been successful based on me loving to live outside my comfort level. I mean, I used to travel 45 different countries a year, places where I can't communicate. I don't speak 100 languages. And to be able to walk into a Chinese restaurant without being able to speak Chinese and point at the menu and whatever they bring me, I would eat. Or I would use these cards where before I'd leave the hotel, on one side, I'd write in English, chicken, not too spicy with vegetables, and then have someone write the Mandarin on the back. You learn that, holy cow, if I'd have gone in there and ordered what I know, I wouldn't have had that experience.
Right.
So when you get a team that you can start to gain comfort outside their comfort level in a way that doesn't get you sued because somehow you've crossed the line. You start to get people that, and I joke, if every meal's a hamburger, that's all food is hamburgers. Let's try something different. And it gets them also thinking in other ways about how to solve problems and do things within the organization. So that's really what that conversation was about.
You just inspired me, and I'm such a visual person that, if you're eating hamburgers every day, your assumption is food is going to be layered upon layered upon layer eaten with your hand, right?
Yeah.
And once you introduce someone into the wonderful world of like, oh, I don't know, sushi, right? It is still stacking, but it's totally different.
Yeah.
Parts and pieces, if you will.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Ooh, I'm gonna have to come up. That's a really neat idea from like a team analogy perspective, I guess, and working with a collaborative.
Yeah, our new restaurant chain we're going to open up a new restaurant chain together. We're just going to call it Feed Me. And when you get to the table, the waiter comes over and you go, feed me, and they bring you something. No one will go.
I would like that. Yeah. Well, with all these allergies everyone has, though.
Yeah.
Forget about it.
Feed me. My restrictions are.
There's a scroll just drops down. Announce it.
My scroll.
Trumpet.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. I want to do that one day just for giggles and see what happens.
But do it in a restaurant of a style of food that you've never eaten before. Like my wife and I, we went once to an Ethiopian restaurant, and who knows what to order. So I said to the waiter, "We've never eaten this before. Bring us what will make us excited to come back." And that's what we had for dinner.
You know what? I think chefs love that the most, right? Because it's not just like, look, I'm Thai, family's from Thailand, and don't get me wrong, and I love pad Thai. Don't get me wrong, but there's more to Thai dishes than pad Thai. I'll tell you that much. You know, it's like, great. I'm glad you like street food. Okay, well, would you like to try other stuff? You know, there's regions.
Yeah,
you know?
and when I'm in Thailand, that's one of the places where I just say, "What's the best green curry you have, or what's the best masman?" and bring me something. And I'm probably not pronouncing that right, but
hey, I understood what you're saying. And by the way, it's not to say that my accent's any better, so don't even worry about it.
Okay.
Like, yeah, no. I remember when I went to Thailand, I was so excited. It was my very first time leaving the country, and I'm there, and I'm like, oh I'm home of my peeps, and I'm talking, and they're like looking at me like,
yeah,
you're not from here, clearly. Yeah, no. My equivalent of the Thai accent is like saying in Spanish, "Hablo Inglés."
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, that's how good my accent is. And thank you so much, Sejal, for adding your TEDx talk. I was just going to ask for that later, so that's good. We can add that to the show notes. So, okay, now there's another. I want to highlight more. So let's go ahead and get to this one, and let's talk more.
All right. StoicNative.com website. You talk about the moment that your dad encouraged you to become a business person. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
You know, and it's funny when you dramatize things, you look at one particular moment and you say, that's the moment. And, you know, I think when I look back on it, it's not really a moment, and that's why I have a really close connection, or at least an insight into community and what that means. And more importantly, as you mentioned, family. You know, a lot of times we talk about business and things like that, but a lot of the impacts and mentorship that I got was from my family, you know, and my family's very hardworking. My father was very much the same, and he always taught us that, or at least told us, that he never really got the opportunity or the support to be able to do the things that he wanted to do. You know, he would always talk about his ideas that he wanted to happen in our community on the reservation, and he just couldn't do it, either from lack of funding, lack of support, lack of knowledge. And he just always taught us, you know, I never got to do these things, and I would like for all of you to be able to do these things, to not rely on other people to be able to make your income, you know, and give yourself a little bit of freedom to do what you want to do. And so him just always talking to us and teaching us is mostly that. He's just, you know, you need to go to school to learn about what it takes to run a business, and what it takes to do this, and what it takes to do that. And, you know, my dad was a very talented guy in art as well, and he just never had an opportunity.
Yeah, that was Palmer Gambler, and out of context, it may have seemed odd to people who don't know what that one was about. It started with me being curious. How does a guy who grows up in a place with no entrepreneurial, or very few entrepreneurial role models, get that spark and create a successful business? Palmer grew up on the Navajo, the Dene Reservation. And I mean, in an area filled with abject poverty and otherwise, and through his creative skills, created his own fashion line that's been very successful, and grown a business. And I had to understand, for my own personal curiosity, how does someone that doesn't have those role models get the spark and be successful? So that was what the conversation was about. He's a great guy too.
Yeah, no, I mean, like that, I'm the Dallas co-chair of the Global Leaders Organization, and it's all about entrepreneurship, and it's about the entrepreneurship stage, if you will, that's often overlooked for those, especially if they're looking for a capital investment, et cetera. And one of the biggest questions, issues keeps arising is, entrepreneurship for minorities or those that are, don't fit the majority description of entrepreneurship, if that makes sense. I'm trying to say it without not saying it, but women, minorities. I didn't even think about Native Americans, where you're culturally, if you grew up on a reservation, you're probably not going to have access to a lot of business leaders, right? And I think that was a great conversation, I thought, because you're right. Where do you get that from? Where did it come from? And sometimes it's just fire in the belly, and other times it could just be that one minor small moment that you've interacted with someone, and it just launches you off in a different trajectory.
Yeah, and his brand is Stoic Native, and he's just done some really cool stuff. Some of it is for everybody, and some of it is for tribal pride type wear. So it's a combination of things. It's really, I think he's got a great eye for design.
Oh, that's awesome. So okay, we're over time, and we still have another clip to play. So I'm going to play it, and I don't care because it's over time. And oh, well, are you cool with that, Andrew? Can we go a little bit longer?
Yeah, we can go a little longer.
All right, let's just do this one because I love AI and artificial intelligence. I just got to play it because my techie tech background.
Okay. To what the heck is AI for people who think they know or say they know but don't know?
Yeah, so AI is like a really broad term. I think a good way to think about it is it's artificial intelligence. You're trying to use a computer to mimic what a human might be able to do. The cool thing about it is that in a lot of cases, AI can do things that humans can't do as well, and vice versa. So humans can do things that AI can't do really well. There are obviously a bunch of different types of artificial intelligence out there. There's recommendation technology, which is core to what we do, which is figuring out what people are going to buy or making recommendations to customers. There's natural language processing technology. So how do we understand human speech? And there's image processing. There's all kinds of different sort of sub areas of AI. But really, I think the way to think about it is that you're trying to sort of mimic a human process. And the basic sort of building blocks there are, you can think of it as just any kind of function. So you've got some input, some training data. You have a computer take a look at that training data and figure out what's going on, what are the patterns, and then you apply that in some other area. So for example, if you want to train a computer to play chess, you show it a bunch of chess games, figures out how chess works, then you can have it play chess. Or if you want to make recommendations, you show it a bunch of transactions, and you have it figure out what things people might want to buy. So, okay, just to plug artificial intelligence, it is not necessarily immediately equated to Skynet, okay? Because I think a lot of people often typically think like that, right? AI, artificial intelligence, machine learning, and all that stuff has a lot to do with automation, right? And having the ability to compile a bunch of raw data in a way that's cohesive for our brains to understand it and leverage it. And now, how did you find them? Because this is, again, vastly different from your other topics that you have covered and we've highlighted so far.
Yeah, they're actually, we've partnered a little bit on a project for an AI system that helps industrial distributors with multiple SKUs to create predictive models to help their sales team be more productive. Using the tech, most big industrial distributors have such a churn on salespeople, so they'll hire 100 guys and 10 stay. What this does, gets people up to speed faster. It helps the salesperson know what next should be offered. It helps them sell all the 1,000 pages of the catalog instead of the 10 they're comfortable with. Yeah. So we're working together on a project, and I'm always fascinated with it. So I asked him to come on and talk about how they've been successful and what they do and what AI actually is, as opposed to robots taking over the world and Arnold Schwarzenegger movies, Exactly. Yeah. So don't be afraid of AI, everyone. But that being said, there is some, it's just,
someone had told me this. AI is basically as good or as evil as the programmer who coded it. Yeah, and that's really ultimately it.
It's more about a living, breathing model that learns as it goes. So
yeah,
most salespeople only understand the yeses. It learns from the no's and the yeses. So if you're offering the same thing and you're getting a response, it adapts with each solution to come up with a better way of doing things.
Love it. So on that note, if you are looking at different ways to do better things, marketing, obviously, how else can we get a hold of you, Andrew? You're amazing, and I love you. Thank you so much for joining us. How can people get a hold of you as well as Fangled Tech?
You need my fax number? Is that?
You're not that much older than me. Trying to watch it.
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn. You'll recognize a guy with my name and my face. If you wanna follow or connect with me there. Our company, as you can see, FangledTech.com. You can check out our website, and of course, go on YouTube and do a search for FangledCast, and you can check out the actual full-length episodes and many more from the FangledCast.
Awesome. I really appreciate you, and I appreciate all the time and effort you've had to join me today. And I know we ran a little bit long, so I really appreciate you. So thank you so much, Andrew.
It was such a pleasure. It's always great to see you.
No, you're the rock star. You're the rock star.
Oh no, you're the rock star.
You're the rock star. All right. Yeah. So on that note, guys, I am Syya Yasotornrat, and I am the producer of the Esports Future Eye Podcast Network in partnership with MAP Esports Future Eye, and my business partner, Aaron, and I are with Innovation Media Enterprises. If you too would like to learn more about the wonderful world of podcasting and how it can help you, and why do I promote all these shows? Well, it's because, when you have cool people that you work with, you want to share their successes because, all ships rise with the tide. And on that note, everyone, I think that wraps it up for another episode of The Mic is Listening. I will see you next week.